Welcome back to another Stars Unlimited deck video, and today I am presenting you my Yoda Force deck that through the power of a crazy combo can play out the likes of your Poe Dameron, Mundis and Anakin Skywalkers. Turn 2! It's so good and so much fun. You may be thinking, how can we get cards like this out on our second turn? Well, that's where Yoda's leader ability comes in, plus You're My Only Hope. If you want to see how this combo works and how you can get the cards like these out on your second turn, then make sure to watch the video as I'm going to be going over loads of different combo paths that you can follow. But before we get into my Yoda Force deck and the combo itself, if you enjoy Stars Unlimited content, make sure to like and subscribe because I'm releasing loads of deck videos all the time and I don't want you to miss out. Not just that, it really does help the channel out. That being said, let's get on with this deck. So let's kick things off with the leader, and because it's a Force deck, we had to go for the main Force user himself. That's the Grand Master Yoda. Yoda is crucial as he's the main piece for why this combo works. Why, you might be asking? Well, that's because of his leader's ability. His leader's ability reads, action, you exhaust him. Then, if a unit left play this phase, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on the top or bottom of your deck. You may be thinking, that doesn't seem very good. But it is. But you need a key card for it to work, and that is You're My Only Hope. This card is the reason we can play out some of these key cards in turn 2. Why? What does this card do? Look at the top card of your deck, you may play it. It costs 5 less. Yes, 5 less. Or if your base has 5 or less remaining HP, you may play it for free, which is also crazy. You want this card in your turn 1 and your turn 2 hand. The reason you want it in your turn 1 or turn 2 hand is so we can play the likes of Mundi out in your turn 2. So this is our situation right now. This is our hand. We got You're My Only Hope and Mundi. Then on the field, we got C-3PO. So we got into our second turn. He's readied up. What you want to do is ram your C-3PO into their unit, normally defeating him. Then you can activate Yoda. Looking at the top card of your deck, a Jedi lightsaber. Now we need to put one back either on the top of our deck or at the bottom. You're going to put Mundi at the top of your deck. Next action, you can pay your free resources, activating Your Only Hope. You look, it's Mundi. Out he comes. That is how you can get him out turn 2. As we go through the deck, I'm also going to point out a couple of cards that this card also brings out early, so maybe not a second turn, but maybe a third or fourth turn. We can still play some big units early and it can swing the game. You may be thinking there's a big problem here. We have to have our unit defeated so we can activate Yoda to set it up. Well, there is another sneaky way that I'm going to go over in a minute to make it work. So as you can tell, this leader is a solid leader just sitting there because of the combo. And well, worst case scenario, if you haven't got You're My Only Hope in my hand, you can just keep adding cards to your hand and then discarding useless ones. Like, that also helps you out. But when he deploys, he's equally as strong. Why? So he comes out on 7, which is fairly late, but he's a 4/9 with Restore 2. But he reads, when deployed, you may discard a card from your deck. If you do, defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same or less than that discarded card. Basically, he's an instant defeat 90% of the time, which is crazy good. You may be thinking, but how do you make that work? So say it's on your 7 resource turn, a unit has been defeated. Remember, it doesn't have to be your unit, so it can also be theirs. So that's happened, right? You've activated Yoda. You've drawn a card. These are in my hand. I'm going to add Mundi to the top of my deck. You're then going to deploy Yoda. I'm going to activate this to discard Mundi. Now I can defeat a 5 resource unit on their side of the field. But as you can tell, Yoda is a serious threat when he's just a leader because he can set up these great plays and he comes out and he has an instant impact on the game state. I absolutely love this deck. For our base, we're going red Catacombs of Qadira. We need the red for the amount of Force cards that you're going to see in a minute. But to be honest, I want to try the 25 health. Because we've got a lot of restore within this deck, I find we don't really end up with that much damage on our base. I won't try it just yet, but if any of you try it, let me know how it goes for you. So with our base and leader done, let's get on to these ground units. Kicking things off with our ground units is, well, the one you've already seen, and that's C-3PO. He's a 2 cost, and you want to run 3. Why are we running C-3PO in a Force deck? Because he's actually kind of nuts. Why? When played on attack, choose a number, then look at the top card of your deck. If its cost is a chosen number, you may reveal it and draw it. Do you see why that's so good? Because with Yoda, of course, you're stacking what's at the top of your deck, so you know what there is, so you can activate C-3PO. And C-3PO is the reason we can get away with not trading our units to activate Yoda. Because if you activate C-3PO, you can look at the top card of your deck and see if you want to activate You're My Only Hope or not. So I'm going to go over why C-3PO is so good. Turn 1, you're going to play him out, right? you can call, I don't know, 4 or 5. That's what I tend to do because this deck has lots of 4 or 5 costing cards. Draw it, brilliant. If you don't really matter. However, they've gone space. That means you can't trade your C-3PO into it to activate Yoda. It doesn't matter with him. Why? Because turn 2, he's readied up. You can attack with him and activate that ability again. So you can call whatever number you want, look at the top cards. So I don't know, I'm going to say number 99 costing. Oh, it's not, it's Anakin. Ooh, but I now know Anakin's at the top of my deck. So my 3 resources, I'm going to activate My Only Hope. Boom! Here comes Anakin without losing a unit. Or another thing I tend to do as C-3PO is I activate Yoda. I haven't got Your Only Hope in my hand. I don't know, I put this card top of the deck. Activate C-3PO. I know what it is, so I just call 2. Boom! Add it to my hand. It just helps your hand get bigger and bigger and bigger. Moving on to our next ground unit is another one I've just spoiled, and that is free Guardian of the World. To be honest, this card's only in here because it's one of the few Force units turn 1 plays we've got. It can come in quite nice. Why? Because this ability reads, the first upgrade you play on this unit each round costs 1 less. You may be thinking, why is that so good? Because if we had our Jedi lightsaber onto it, it costs 1 less, meaning you then have a 5/5 unit turn 2, with a resource spare, you can maybe activate Force Throw with. Insane! So at the end of your second turn, if you haven't activated your crazy combo, you can have a 5/5 Force unit on the board, then you can have a card discarded from their hand, and that damage dealt to one of their units. Another thing that's quite nice is because it's a 2/2 stat line, you can normally use it just to crash into whatever they have, then activate Yoda. That 2 health actually comes in quite nice for us. And rounding up our 2 cost ground units is 3 Sabine Wrens. Why have we got Sabine in here? Well, she's technically a Force unit if you've seen Rebels and Ahsoka, but it's mainly because she's just a solid turn 1 play. Why is she such a good turn 1 play? Well, she's 2/3 stat line that reads, on attack you may deal 1 damage to a defender or to a base. Basically meaning she's a 3/3 turn 1 play. And she's got another ability is, while there are at least 3 aspects on other friendly units, this can't be attacked. It's nice, but I normally play the other cards out turn 1. She's just there because, well, she's a nice turn 1 play, and she kind of fits the Force theme. Okay, moving on to our 3 cost units, we got 3 Village Protectors. This card is really important for the deck. Because it comes out shielded, it always takes 2 attacks to take down, so that buys you 2 attacks early game, which is really valuable. Especially because we're trying to live to that mid to late game. Moving on to our next 3 cost unit is one of the best cards in this deck, and I'm surprised at how good it is. That is 3 Yodas. I mean, come on, it's a Yoda deck. We had to run Yoda. But why is he so good? Because he's got Force Jedi, he gets synergy with loads of cards in this deck, and he's got Restore to, and when defeated, choose any number of players, they each draw a card. To be honest, it's more of the Force and Restore to why he's so good. This card can quickly become a problem for the opposition. Why? Give it Jedi Lightsaber, becomes a 5/7. Or, play him out turn 2, turn 3, you're going to give the Force is with me. Give him 2 experience tokens and a shield token and attack immediately. Oh wow! The reason this combo is also so good, because if they have takedown, which costs 4 resources, he has 6 health, so the takedown can't touch him. And moving on to our 4 costs, we got 3 Kanan Jarrus. Kanan is another insanely strong card within this deck. Yet again, it all comes down to Force. It's really important we have a Force unit on our side of the field because our entire deck's built around it. Why is Kanan so good? Well, he's 4/5 stat line, which is solid. On attack, you may discard 1 card from your defender player's deck. For each friendly Spectre unit, you're only going to have 1, sometimes 2 if you have Sabine out, and heal 1 damage from your base for each different aspect among the discarded cards. He's just a nice way to keep discarding cards from their deck while hitting for a nice bit of damage while healing. But because he's Force, you know what I'm going to say, you could maybe give him Jedi Lightsaber, making him a 7/8. Or maybe you can activate the Forces with me, making him a 6/7. With a shield! You're probably noticing a theme within this deck. Well, not just the Force theme because it's a Force deck, but it's actually got quite a lot of healing within this deck. So when I was going back to earlier, maybe running a 25 base, you can see why, just because we keep healing and recovering. Okay, and now one of the most important parts are 5 cost units. These are the units we can play in our second turn. We can start things off with 1 Poe Dameron. If you want to run the most competitive version of this deck, you're probably going to drop some Mundis for Poe Dameron because he's probably the best one. Well, he's a 6/6, which is insane. And on attack, discard up 3 cards from your hand. For each discarded card this way, choose a different option. You can deal 2 damage, defeat an upgrade, and opponent discards a card from their hand. I normally do the upgrade and discard, but he's just a 6/6 body. Turn 2. But the reason we run only 1 Poe in here is because, well, it's a Force deck, so we want as much Force as we can. And, well, I only had 2 Mundis, so I had to fill it with something else. and it's not a bad one to put in. Because I've mentioned Cardimundi, let's move on to our next 5-cost unit, and that's 2 Cardimundis. So it's 5 costs, like I said, bring out turn 2. He's a 5/7, so he survives a long time. But this ability actually comes up a lot more than you think. The ability reads, when an opponent plays their second card each phase, you may draw 2 cards. What's so good about that, you don't need Cardimundi out on the board for both of those cards to be played. So for example, maybe this is your board right now, you've got 2 units, they play 1 card, then you play Sabine out, then they play another card, this one will activate. That is now the second card, meaning you can draw 2. You don't need him to be out for both, so please don't miss that. And moving on to our last 5-cost ground unit, that's 3 Anakin Skywalkers. Anakin's probably the one I like bringing out my second turn the most. Why? Well, he's a 6/6, making him an instant issue for them to deal with, and he's got the Force tags. So yet again, you can activate all the Force cards with him. You may be thinking, but Cardimundi's also got that. But the issue of Cardimundi is, turn 2 if you bring him out, you normally haven't got the coordinate online. So Anakin, just having a bigger body on board, tends to do more. I really like Anakin in this deck. Bringing him out turn 2 and then activating all the Force cards behind him is crazy strong. I'm going to be honest, you can't really go wrong with bringing out any of these in your second turn. I just prefer bringing out Anakin and Cardimundi just because they're a Force unit and well, it's a Force deck that's built around it. So with our 5-cost units done, let's crack on to the 6-cost. Starting things off for the 6-cost is 1 Kit Fisto. Gonna be perfectly honest, he's only in here because I got no Luke Skywalkers, so I needed other Force Jedi units. But with that being said, he is a relatively good card. So he's a 7/6 Saboteur, but most importantly, if you've got Coordinate online, his on attack reads, you may deal 3 damage to a ground unit. So if he comes out, you've got Coordinate online, he can quickly start cleaning up the opposition's ground units. He's nice, but like I said, he's only in here because, well, we haven't got any Lukes. Moving on to our next 6-cost ground unit is 2 Obi-Wans. Okay, so Obi-Wan is insanely strong in this deck. Why? Well, he's 6 costs, 4/6 Sentinel that reads, when defeated, give 2 experience tokens to a friendly unit. If it's a Force unit, draw a card. So 90% of this deck is Force units, so you know what that means. 2 experience tokens to it and a draw card. You know how I said earlier that this card can be used for other things to bring out early and it's quite strong? Obi-Wan Kenobi's one of those. You can bring Obi-Wan out on your turn 3. Having this guy out so early is insanely strong. Because maybe you have Obi-Wan out and maybe your unit on the field is Yoda. If Obi-Wan goes down, 2 experience tokens onto him and you get to draw. Ooh! And at the end of the day, he is Force Jedi, so that means he gets synergy with everything in this deck. Moving on to our 7-cost ground units, we run 1 Mace Windu. Yet again, he's another card we've only got in here because, well, we haven't got any Luke Skywalkers. If I had Luke, I'd drop Kit Fisto and Mace for 2 Lukes. Simple as that. Anyway, what's this card read? So it's a 5/7 ambush that when this unit attacks and defeats unit, ready him. You'll be surprised how many times he can come out, clear a few units, and still attack for base because it's readied up. Gonna be honest, him and Kit Fisto have probably only used both of them once. If that, like, they're okay. They're mainly just in here because, well, they're Force, they're Jedi, and, like, keep repeating, I've got no Lukes. And rounding up our ground units is an absolute powerhouse of a card that has 1 Great Dragon. I know it's not Force, however, because this deck pretty much always goes to the late game, we want a finisher and a big finisher. Most of our finishers, to be honest, are our Jedis getting boosted up. But having like a Yoda leader on the field with a Jedi lightsaber, then you go Great Dragon, oh boy, they're not winning. So for those who don't know, Great Dragon is insanely strong. So it's a 9-cost 10/10 with Overwhelm that reads, when an opponent plays a card, you may deal damage equal to that card's cost to their base or ground unit they control. Ooh! So if you aren't close to winning the game already, this will make sure you do win the game. What I also love about the Great Dragon is that once that comes out in the field, they kind of forget about your Jedis getting boosted up because they're so focused on taking this down. That's our ground units done. Let's move on to the space units. Starting things off with the space units is a 2-cost, and that is 3 Restored Arcs. Why are we running Restored Arc? Well, it's a solid turn 1 play, 2/3 stat line with Restore 1. Like I said earlier, we like to heal, so with this, plus our Yoda unit, plus Kanan, the healing comes in thick and fast within this deck. Not just that, this, if they play a Lurkin-Tai Phantom, this can defeat the Lurkin-Tai and survive, which is beautiful. We're actually jumping straight to the 5-cost of our space units, and we run 2 Obi-Wan's Aether Sprites. This card is actually really good. So it's 4/6 Jedi Republic that reads, when played and on attack, you may deal 1 damage to this unit and 2 damage to another space unit. This can quickly start cleaning up their entire board. Do you know what else is nice about this card? It's a 5 cost, so you can actually cheat it out in turn 2. Oh! So if you're playing a space deck and you cheat this card out, it's just game over for them. They just can't do anything. And then rounding up our space units. I know we haven't got many, but we've got some on the side deck. Now it's 1 redemption. So it's a 6/9 Sentinel, but more importantly, it reads, when played, heal up to 8 total damage from any number of units and or bases, and deal that much damage to this unit. So if you're really struggling with a lot of damage in your base, just do 8 damage to this, and you heal 8 from your base. To be honest, I very rarely do that because I found I don't have that much damage because all the healing I've already been doing. However, having that option is nice. And worst case scenario, it's a 6/9 Sentinel in space. Good luck getting through that. So that's actually it for our space units. I know there's not many, but that's because, like I said, it's a Force deck and we need lots of Force cards. But as I hinted, we have got some on the side deck. So with that done, let's move on to our events and upgrades. Starting things off on events and upgrades is 1 Mystic Reflection. Gonna be honest, it's mainly in here because, well, it's a Force card and, well, it's kind of the only time we've got a chance to run this card, and it can come in quite nicely. So what does it do? Give an enemy unit -2 attack for this phase. If you control a Force unit, give the enemy unit -2/-2 for this phase instead. So let me just sum this up for you. Make an opening is so good because you can heal and defeat something essentially because it's -2/-2. But that costs 3. This costs 1 and does the same thing because 90% of your deck is Force. It's alright. I've got better cards, especially our next 1 cost. That next 1 cost is 3 Force Throws. I'm not joking when I say this. This is probably one of the best cards within the deck. Like, it's insanely good. When I ran this deck last week at Locals, this was the MVP by far. Why? What does it do? So, choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then, if you control a Force unit, which we're probably going to, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of that discarded card. So it's basically a 1 cost removal that you can play whenever. Oh, some of the things I hit last week with this deck. I hit a Han Solo, I hit an Avenger, I hit a Snoke. But the fact you can discard a card and deal damage. Honestly, I can't stress to you enough how good this card is. Something that's really nice, but it's not consistent enough, is she's in our side deck, and that is Barrisophie. Because she's a 1 cost, in your first turn, you could go Barrisophie, they play their card, activate Force Throw, discard a card, and then defeat whatever they play out. Moving on to our next card, and that has a 3 cost, and that has 2 Jedi Lightsabers. Yet again, this card is insanely good within this deck, and you've probably seen it in many places before. So, what does it do? Attached to a non-vehicle unit. If attached unit is a Force unit, which 90% of our deck is, it gains on attack, give the defender -2/-2 for this phase. That's very nice when you're playing the Sentinel decks. However, why it's so good is just boosting everything within this deck. Any single Force unit with this becomes a massive issue. What I really like doing is activating our really nice combo, getting a Anakin out in turn 2, then a follow-up turn, you can equip it with Jedi's Lightsaber, making him 9/9, and you've got 1 resource left, meaning you can then activate Force Throw on top of that. So I often do give my Force units Jedi Lightsaber. However, most of the time I try to save one for Yoda because it makes Yoda a 7/12 leader with Restore 2. Good luck taking that out. Moving on to our next 3 cost. Well, it needs no introduction. You've seen it loads already. 3 of You're My Only Hope. I've already gone over this card tons of times in this deck. You need it. It's an absolute must within this deck. Like, no exception. Run free, you have to run free. Moving on to our 4 costs, we've got 2 takedowns. So it's a blue deck, of course you needed some removal in there somewhere. This just helps slow down those quite aggressive decks. I really like it for just deleting leaders out of the game, or maybe they play something a little bit too big that's causing you issues. Boom, takedown, see you later. And moving on to our next 4 costs, which is easily one of the best cards in the deck. That is 3, The Force is With Me. I feel a bit embarrassed admitting this. I never truly appreciated how insanely cracked this card is. Why? So choose a friendly unit and give 2 experience tokens to it. If you control a Force unit, also give a shield token to that chosen unit. I then may attack with that chosen unit. Oh my goodness! So it basically gives 90% of your deck those 2 experience tokens, a shield on that, and you can attack. The amount of times I've activated this, put it onto my Coyote Mundi or my Anakin Skywalker and just deleted their leader out the game. And because of the shield, no damage has come back to me. And rounding up our main deck, it wouldn't be a blue deck without this card. That's 1/6 cost and has a Rival's Fall. And also it's a Force deck and it's literally, well, Luke taking down Darth Vader. What to do? Defeat a unit. It's just insanely good. It's just in there. If they play something that you just can't deal with, boom, have that. To be honest, I mainly use it as the, oh, you played your leader out. That's cute. Rival's Fall. So that's our main deck done. Let's crack on to this side deck. Starting things off in the side deck is one Barriss Offie. She's a 1-cost 1/1 that reads each friendly unit that has healed this phase gets +1 attack. Gonna be honest, she's not very good at all. She really isn't. But I'm never going to use her. And I thought, well, it's a Force deck. So this is kind of the perfect time to put her in. Probably the best thing you do with Barriss is what I said earlier. So turn 1, you play her out. They activate a unit. Then you can activate Mystic Reflection or maybe Force Throw to get rid of something and then defeat that unit. Which, don't get me wrong, is insanely good turn 1. It's just, it's not consistent enough to have both of them in your turn 1 hand to play it. Moving on to our next option, we got one Captain Typho for the sheer reason of maybe you're playing a really aggressive deck and you can't deal with it as much, so playing him down you can just Sentinel anything. Not just that, maybe if you're playing an aggression deck, turn 2 you get your Anakin out, turn 3 activate Typho, Sentinel that Anakin. Have fun aggression deck, getting through that. And rounding things up in the side deck for the ground units is actually another Crate Dragon. To be honest, if you want to run the most competitive version of this deck, I'd probably put 2 Crate Dragons in the main deck because you're often getting to those resources. The reason it's not is because, well, it's a Force themed deck, so that's kind of why. But yeah, definitely if you're in those matchups that are going on longer, or you're playing like a control deck, having 2 Crate Dragons is really, really strong. By the way, you can cheat Crate Dragon out early. You can get it out on 7 resources. So I hinted at this next one because I said we haven't got much space units in the main deck, and that is 3 Concord Dawn Interceptors. This is in here purely if you're playing like a space aggro deck or they're playing quite a few space units and you're getting overwhelmed out there. Just chuck this in here. 1/4 Sentinel that reads when this unit gets attacked, it gets +2. So it essentially becomes a 3/4 Sentinel. Really good card, 100% have it in the side. Like, it's such a strong card. I wouldn't blame you for putting the main. I just like it for the side. Okay, next in our side deck is 2 Pillages. So, because we're already discarding cards through our Force Throw and Arcanon, why not chuck this in here to discard even more? What this card does, choose a player, they discard 2 cards from their hand. So I've put this in here, like I said, if you're playing against those control decks. Discarding another card on top of Force Throw and Kanan, they're just not going to recover from it because control love having cards in their hand. So if you've got control on the board through all your Force units and then you're discarding their hand, they just can't do anything. And rounding up our side deck, I had to put it in here because the artwork is perfect for the theme of this deck. And well, it's an insanely strong card. That's 2 Vigilance. So this card, yet again, you're playing in control matchups, is insanely strong. Being able to pick any of these is, I'd always suggest probably healing the base, almost always, and well, the others depends on the situation you're in. What this card does is you can choose 2 in any order. So discard 6 cards from your opponent's deck, which is very good, and is also very annoying for the opposition when you're playing a control deck. Heal 5 damage from a base, defeat a unit for 3 less remaining HP, or give a shield token to a unit. Just remember, in this deck, this will cost 6 because of the aspect penalty. Okay, so that's our main deck and side deck done. Here's the deck list for those who want it. So for what I think about the deck and for matchups, I actually really enjoyed this deck. Like, it actually turned out a lot better than I thought I would. I thought, you know, it'd be good when it got the combo out, but that's about it. Like, no, like, it's insanely strong when you get the combo off, don't get me wrong, but it can still really compete if you don't get that combo off, just because of all the Force cards and this Force synergy. For matchups, it's actually quite good at the mid-range to late game, because you look to play that anyway, through all your discarding, through all your healing, through boosting all your Jedis. Like, it absolutely dominates late game to mid game. So even though this deck's actually quite good against those late to mid game decks, there's 3 cards that hard counter it you need to be careful of. That's Rival's Fall, Choose Sides, and Super Laser Blast. All 3 of those hit you hard. So against aggression matchups, it can do really well if you get your Sentinels out, your healing on board, or if you just boost up 1 unit and use that to trade with just basically everything. One game, I played Guarding the Wheels turn 1, gave it Jedi Lightsaber, activated Force Throw. That Force Throw defeated the unit on board, and then I had a 5/5 that was making theirs lose 2 attack and 2 health every single attack, and they just couldn't recover from it. By the time they took that Guardian of the Wheels down, I then had Obi-Wan on board, I had my Anakin on board, and it was basically game. Do you know one thing I really liked about that? That Guardian of the Wheels one-shot their Sabine leader when it came out, and because of the Jedi lightsaber, Sabine did 0 damage back. So that has been my Yoda Force combo-y deck that I really enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you think about this deck and any changes that you may make. And before anyone says, I know the Luke unit would be insanely good within this deck, I just unfortunately don't have any. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I shall catch you in the next one.